Estados Unidos, don't care if you're Ricans or even Cubanos. Look at our coaches. We have more in common, don't let them divide. These suckers are vultures. Either we standing together or better be standing aside. Now is the time, don't know about you, but I'm gonna ride. We gotta climb, fight for your base, man, where was your pride? Where were the gunners that you got inside? Look how our ancestors came to this country. They try to be living the American dream. Don't throw it away. They promise you money and got your agent for the machine. Pick a new team, you flesh socialism, but that is a system that you wanna bring. You need to think, we gotta fight communism, cause it look like we on the brink. Connect all the links, a one-party system is taking the power from all of the people. We need to think, when will you listen? These people are evil and won't treat a sequel, so what is your plan? Hand in hand, we're standing together, cause it's the one never to do what you can. Please understand, we gotta do better, so walkers remember that we took a stand. Escúchame, 24 es el año, si se puede. Lucha, lucha por la libertad. ¡Órale, vamos!
No les gusta que nos estemos juntando, porque todos los días vamos ganando. No quieren que los latinos anden despertando. Abre los ojos para ver lo que está pasando. No les gusta que nos estemos juntando.
Yo. Welcome back to Latino Free Minds. Here with my co-hosts, Danny and Christian. And this is a new installment of the Fighter Series. If you're a new listener, we call this the Fighter Series because we like to invite people that are doing just that, right? Putting up a fight. They don't wave white flags. They don't quit. And if they're outnumbered, these people fight 2 to 3 times harder. And that's what we respect. So today we have a man that has been fighting, I can imagine, since he started his business. I personally know about Raw Farms for like about 1.5 years, maybe 2 years that I'm familiar with it. And in that time frame, I've seen plenty of attacks. So you continue fighting, and that's why I respect you, and that's why we're so glad that you're here. He's the CEO of Raw Farms, and we're happy to have Mark Mcafee here. I may be wrong, but I feel like you probably have the biggest brand in raw milk products in this entire country. And we talked about on the last episode how excited we were about the changes RFK is going to make related to health as far as the head of HHS. And that's kind of how we made that clip about raw milk. And we'll talk about your business, what you guys have been going through recently and how you might be involved in those changes with RFK. But Mark, thank you for coming on. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Daniel. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for coming on. We're really excited about this one and kind of what we can talk about. You know what I mean?
Well, my daughter says she's going to boost you about 1 million times. So whatever we do, we got to do it good because she's going to put you all over the world.
No, hold on.
There you go.
There we go. Okay, there you go.
Love it.
How you doing, Danny? I think you're on mute.
Sorry about that. My connection is pretty bad over here today. All of you look pretty blurry to me. I can't really make you guys out right now, but I know who's who. But just to reiterate what Daniel has been saying is that we're really excited. I think for me is knowledge. Yeah, there's a lot of things that we've been told throughout many years. I'm 46. And I've been able to see when they tell us that, eat eggs, it's good for you. Drink milk, it's good for you. Eat steak, it's good for you. To a different stage where all of what we told you is bad for you, and they come with a new set of nutrients that are supposed to be good for you. So we've kind of seen some of those stages come and go, and we've been lied to, we've been manipulated, and we want to know the truth. We want to get some knowledge. Yeah. So with, you and your business, I'm just eager to learn, what the truth is and what the government isn't telling us.
Well, we got the truth for you. I got a couple of short stories. You want me to dive right into them?
Yeah, go ahead. Let's get it cracking.
Many, many years ago, the American Association of Pediatricians, the doctors that run medicine for children, said, don't have your children eat peanuts. Don't eat peanuts. For an entire generation, kids didn't eat peanuts. And now we got thousands of children that have died from peanut allergies. Meanwhile, over in Africa, there was an Israeli food called bamba that's made of peanuts. And all the kids are given peanuts from 3 or 4 months old. And nobody has peanut allergies, and nobody's ever died from peanut allergies. They don't even know what peanut allergies are in Africa. That just gives you a very good example of how this hubris, this we know it all, this culture of we decide for everybody else. And we're going to actually interpret the science the way we want it to be versus looking at the science. And having too few minds in too powerful places make decisions for everybody that has tragic consequences. Now, that's not my story, but that's a story from Dr. Marty Mcafee. And Mcafee is a doctor that RFK is putting in charge of the FDA. And what I'm really excited about is RFK asked me about 2 months ago if I would be willing to serve as the chief counselor or chief advisor to the FDA on raw milk policy and standards. So within the FDA, we have this major problem of this groupthink, this 100 years of pasteurized milk being the only way, the religion. And you can't get on the team at the FDA unless you pray to that God. Mm-hmm. So my whole point in saying this is there's lots of examples of these terrible decisions that have been made that hurt people, you and I and consumers. What I'm really proud about is at Raw Farm, we've actually brought back something which is Mother Nature's blueprints. The truth from all time for 15,000 years is that raw milk has been a fantastic food for people. And the fact that they have one standard of the FDA, and that's raw milk for pasteurization. And that's where you get all the milk from everybody around and all the dairies, you pour it all together, and you don't pay the farmers very much for it at all. And there's lots of poop in the milk. There's pathogens in the milk. It's garbage. And they don't pay the farmers very much. And that milk should be pasteurized because it's filled with all kinds of pathogens and just disgusting stuff that should be pasteurized. But that's the only rule they've got, the pasteurized milk ordinance. Well, if I get the honor to serve America and the world at the FDA, which I hope that comes to pass, there will be a raw milk ordinance to go with the pasteurized milk ordinance. And the raw milk ordinance is going to talk about super high standards, farmer training, on-farm autonomous testing for the farmers so they can test their own milk every day if they want. And that is the kind of milk that's just as good as mother's breast milk. Nobody argues about whether breastfeeding is good for babies. Everybody says, please, if you can, breastfeed your babies because all these fantastic things found in breast milk, bioactives, biodiversity, enzymes, antibodies. But when you change from a mom's breast milk to a cow, a goat, a sheep, a horse, a reindeer, a camel, they freak out. So that's my goal, is to bring whole food nutrition to America to help us build our gut microbiome, which is the seat of 60% of our immune systems. And so far, what they've been recommending is extremely gut biome destructive. And that's kind of my story, is the fact that for 25 years here at Raw Farm, we've been producing raw milk, which is safe, delicious, and builds the immune system. Did you know that 13 kids every day die in America from asthma? 13 kids every day. Mm-hmm. And that's considered normal. That's just happens every day. But in Europe, they did a study on thousands of children that drank raw milk over 10, 15 years. And those kids didn't have asthma. Their asthma went away, along with ear infections and fever and cold and all this stuff. That's because they have strong immune systems. And that's what I want to bring to America if I get a chance to go back east. We're already doing it here in California with raw milk, but mm-hmm. I want to do it for everybody in America. That's kind of my answer to your question there, buddy.
Well, just doing a little bit of research today on, raw milk. I've never had raw milk. I'm in the Bay Area, so I wouldn't even know where to start, right? But, doing a little bit of research today, raw milk started to sound like a superfood. And I heard a couple people calling it a superfood, right? And when I think of superfoods, I go ahead and I think of the almond, right? And I was wondering today, why doesn't raw milk, get that type of, the credit? I was saying that, like you said, asthma in children, that's something that affects me, arthritis, allergies, GI tract issues, gout. I don't got that, but you never know. So I'm just wondering, is there such a thing like big almond keeping you down, or is it, what is it that, doesn't give you guys the credit? Is it the fact that the name is raw milk, and you wouldn't eat raw chicken? Is it verbiage? What do they do to you guys, as branding or propaganda,
There's several things going on here. In 1893, that's 130 years ago, plus or minus. In 1893, they had something called the milk problem. Now, when first settlers settled America, and this is disregarding the history of the Indians who settled here before us, but when white man came, they either died or went back to Europe before the arrival of the first cows. The Pilgrims didn't do well without their cows. So cows and people went together in Europe. And from the 1500s, 1600s, 1700s, lived in pretty much harmony because green grass, clean water, out in the pasture, sunshine, it was all very natural because you didn't have crowded conditions. But in the 1800s, people started bringing their cows into the cities. When they brought the cows into the cities, you could just imagine what happened. Filthy mess, typhoid fever, brucellosis, tuberculosis, no clean water, no flushing toilets, no pastures. They ate the pastures up and they became a big muddy hole. And so downtown brewery dairies popped up with 500 cows. And what would feed those cows? Brewers, distillers grains. They're making their wine, they're making their alcohol, and they have these distillers grains. They feed that to the cows. Cows had never ate that stuff before. So the cows got sick, and the clean water was gone. The people that were milking the cows by hand, if they got cold in the morning, they put their feet in the milk because it was warm. I mean, you talk about disgusting. This is disgusting. So 1893, two things happened. A guy named Nathan Strauss brought in something called a parboiler, which is the early form of pasteurization. It was basically a big bucket that you put big fire underneath it. You just cook the heck out of the milk. And what do you know? Fewer people died because all the bad bacteria was killed off. It still had problems with water quality. That same year, Henry Coit was a doctor. He said, wait a minute, raw milk's fantastic for babies. We want raw milk, but let's clean it up. So he went out in the countryside and he used to certify dairies under the American Association of Medical Milk Commissions to be certified raw dairies. And that milk was going to the Mayo Clinic, was on the Titanic, was going to the White House. It was expensive, it was delicious. It didn't hurt anybody. It was fantastic because it came from out in the countryside with the grass pastures, sunshine, and clean water. So that's where the path split, where you had the cheap milk, which is going to get pasteurized, going one way. You had the expensive milk, which took a lot of work, was hard to do, going the other way. The last dairy to be certified raw by the AAMMC was Altadena in Los Angeles in 1999. So it lasted about 106 years. And that's where I got my roots, where I started when Altadena customers said, hey, we want raw milk. And I was listening. I said, I'll bring it to you. I'll do it. And so I took over that, and now we've been doing it for 26 years. But if you think about it, pasteurized milk, you don't have to worry about quality. You don't have to worry about quality at all. Anything goes. It's filthy. Because if one dairy does a really good job, and some do, why would they? They're going to get combined with the other dairies, and it's all going to get pasteurized together. And they're not getting paid any different from one dairy to another. So why would anybody do a really good job of producing clean, pasteurized milk? They don't. It's all going to get cooked. To quote Dr. Bruce German at UC Davis, he's a brilliant man who studies all this stuff. He said, pasteurization is an 18th century solution to an 18th century problem. We can do a hell of a lot better. And that's exactly what we're doing. We're following on the footsteps of what Dr. Coit did, which was keeping a clean operation and doing a great job. And now we can add in testing and all kinds of cool stuff they couldn't do back then. But raw milk has the blueprints of life in it. Remember, raw milk is the first food of life. If you're lucky enough and you're born to your mama, the first thing she did was put you on her breast. And that fed you and built your immune system that didn't exist before birth. So raw milk has all the ingredients God put there so babies could thrive at the most vulnerable time of life. And when you drink raw milk from cows, goats, sheep, horses, reindeer, all around the world doing different raw milk, the same kind of things is given to babies and humans all over the world for 10,000, 15,000 years. So you can see how this is it's like an industrial problem where the big industry doesn't want competition. They want to get their cheap milk, which is highly allergenic, hard to digest, doesn't taste very good. And they're going to sell that to you with a long shelf life, but not good for your gut life. So that's kind of the short story of where we are today.
Well, again, it reminds me of some other issues that I'm sure, RFK is going to be working on. And it's, the time of why we're doing these certain processes, right? It makes me think of corn syrup. We were doing it at the time of scarcity. We needed to make things. So corn syrup was the cheaper way to do things, right? Now we're in a time of abundance and we're still on corn syrup, right? What's the deal with being on homogenized milk and pasteurized milk when we can take when the cows are in better condition now? We better living standards and such. So it's just a little crazy how it's kind of in tandem how we don't change. It's more profit when you think of the other milk rather than raw.
Well, RFK is talking about something that's really radical right now. Maybe you and I don't think it's radical, but it's really radical.
Right.
When you talk about the power of the pharmaceuticals, the drugs.
Oh yeah.
He's saying, hey, let food be medicine. More drugs is not going to make us healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I was a paramedic for 16 years. I ran 15,000 paramedic calls in Fresno with American Ambulance. I was on the rescue team, on the helicopter for a little while. I ran the operations. I was a recruiter. And I saw 15,000 people in various different states. Some of that was gunshots and car accidents, but a lot of diabetes, a lot of asthma, a lot of CPR, a lot of heart attacks, a lot of people having problems with all kinds of things. And something I always saw? You go into a house and somebody's having a problem with a medical problem, and there's always a big pile of drugs beside their bed. There's never any good food in the refrigerator. None. Or the food they do have is all sugar, highly processed crap. Now, RFK saying, I'm calling that out.
Yeah.
I want food in America's bellies because that's how we build immune systems that keep you from getting sick, right? Mm-hmm. Because if you take care of the nutrition, you don't need all the pharmaceuticals. Well, to your point, Christian, the pharmaceuticals will make a hell of a lot of money on sick people. And they are not happy right now with RFK saying, move over. We're going to let the farmers make some money. And you guys take a back seat for a while because we're going to start healing America through nutrition. And that means every neighborhood should have a good store that's got good food in it, not just a 7-Eleven with stuff that's good for 2 years on the shelf, right?
Yeah.
We're talking about every neighborhood should have food, not just the wealthy. And what about all these stores are on the north end of town, not the south? That kind of crap, right? So it's a change that's really disturbing Wall Street. Look at the Moderna stock, the guys that make the vaccinations. They went from $450 a share down to $45. And you know what? When that kind of company with that kind of money starts losing that kind of money in their stock value, somebody's getting really upset. So that's why you see everybody pushing back on the pharmaceutical side with all the drug companies against RFK because he's saying, no, nutrition needs to lead the show. We still need good drugs and stuff, but that's going to be second position. We're going to put the farmers first, and we're going to put food first, and we're going to put nutrition first so we can have healthy kids. And that's a major, major paradigm shift, big time.
Starting off a preventative, right? I think that starts with food.
Yeah, 100%. When you got kids that are starving and can't go to school or they had some sugar for breakfast and you wonder why they're going ADD by lunch and they can't learn nothing and they're having school shootings because they're all crazy, it's because they're not eating right.
Mm-hmm.
You start feeding a child well and their brain starts to settle down because the gut-brain connection.
Yeah. What is it in California? Fruit Loops are healthier than an apple? Something like that?
That's it. It's funny, but it's not funny at all.
Yeah.
It's not funny. Yeah, yeah.
No, I always tell the story about my son. He's 22 now, but when he was little, he always suffered from asthma. And right around when he was 8, he had a really bad episode, and we took him to the hospital. And this is before you could Google everything and do a bunch of research like you can right now.
Right.
So we tend to trust the doctors, right? And we put a lot of faith into what they tell us, and what's good for our kids and for us. And he made a mistake to have his monitor facing me when he was looking up the history of all the medicines that he took, and he was trying to figure out what he was going to prescribe him next. So he goes from one full page, and we told him, nope, all those have these side effects and he can't take it, to the second page, and went down the list again. No, because these give him this side effect, and it causes more problems. He goes through the third page. When he got to the third page, I just about lost it, and at that point we were really frustrated, my wife and I. And we literally said, all of these prescriptions that you're giving them, what is the root cause that is triggering this? They didn't have any answers. It's like asking a pharmacist for a diagnosis. It's more pills. Here, it's just more medicine. So what we ended up doing is, you could still go on the internet at that time. But it was a little harder to find things. My wife did a good job, and she found out that preservatives, color dyes, especially the red ones and the orange ones, yellow ones, are the ones that triggered the asthma. Lo and behold, we change his diet, and he starts getting better.
Correct.
And
Well,
it goes back to the exact point that you all were talking about right now. And with all of the properties that raw milk has, I only wish that I would have known this when my kids were smaller.
Well, Danny, I got to tell you, this is an interesting story. Sometimes when you tell a story, it resonates more than anything else you can say.
Mm-hmm.
And your story really strikes to me because I'm a pilot. I'm a private pilot. I've been flying since I was 16 years old. For the last 30 years, I've done a lot of clinic work in Mexico, flying back and forth to Mexico, doing clinic work with Liga, flying doctors. And we take doctors down with us. And on the aircraft, for 6 hours down and 6 hours back, we have headset time. We get to talk to the doctors. And there's a doctor, I'm not going to name his name, fairly wealthy local doctor that operates a clinic for asthma. And I asked him, I said, I know that raw milk makes asthma get better. It really makes asthma, allergies, the leaky gut syndrome, food allergies get better. I said, can I do a study with your group? Can I get 50 of your kids? I'll give them free raw milk and see how they do. And he says, wow, that's pretty interesting. I've heard that same thing. Let me talk to my partners about that. So about a month later, he calls me back. He says, I called him and I said, hey, what do your partners say about doing this study? I'll give free raw milk. And he said, well, I got some bad news for you. And this isn't exactly what he said, but it's close to it because I can't remember the exact statement. He said, we can't participate in the study because it would ruin our business.
Mm.
That was shocking to me. That was shocking to me because he was prescribing corticosteroids, Alupent inhalers, rescue pens, all those things, right? And the newfangled medications they've got nowadays to try to decrease inflammation and control the asthma in the children and what's going on with pneumonia and antibiotics. A lot of antibiotics in kids with asthma and a lot of ear infections with kids, a lot of inflammation going on, a lot of food allergies, eczema. Raw milk takes care of all of those things in the gut. The gut is the seat of inflammation in your body. It's also the biodiversity and all the things that go on with inflammation is driven by the gut and the bacteria that's in the gut. The raw milk feeds that bacteria. It does a beautiful job of that. It's not only a source of it, but it also feeds it. So it's a probiotic and a prebiotic, creating postbiotics. So the gut microbiome works really, really well. And if you've got to remember that children receive antibiotics, every time you get a round of antibiotics when you're really young, increases your severity of asthma tremendously. There's big studies done in San Francisco, UCSF, on kids that received antibiotics at 2 years of old. They had a massive increase in asthma for life. Well, why are we giving antibiotics to children when they're that young? Why don't we give them raw milk so they don't get illness, so they don't have the infection to need the antibiotic to begin with? So your story really resonates, Danny, about your child that's now grown. And I'm glad that he's doing well now. But bottom line is, so many other children right now are going through the same process. And should we be preventing it? And that's what RFK, and he's asked me to help him do, being a chief advisor to the FDA on raw milk standards and policy, because that's what we want to do, is make food medicine real for people.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I believe too, like the overall health of people shouldn't be swayed by whatever your political beliefs are. And that's the problem with, I think, every department in the country. It's they've all been politicized, and to me, a lot of them have lost their real purpose, right? And the FDA, they've approved so many things for people that ended up causing more damage than actually helping people, right? So like I feel like, right now you're when it comes to your business and all that, and what you guys have been going through this past month or so, um, I feel like you're on the side of the incoming FDA leadership, so to speak, right? Do you think that the attacks on you are going to get stronger to discredit raw milk just because, people hear, okay, Mark might be an advisor for RFK, and I've seen it in the news clips, right? That where they were reporting that you were reached out to by RFK, right? When they go Mark, they say Mark, whose company is facing a recall or something like that, right? They have to throw that out there to kind of discredit your farm, your product, and all that. Do you feel that the sale of raw milk are they going to attack you more before, you know what I mean, from here to January 20th, let's say? Are they gonna go as hard as they possibly can?
I think they are right now. I think this is just the latest platform to attack all the good we've done. The interesting thing about our current recall, we're shut down on both of our dairies here in Fresno County and in King County. We did nothing wrong. There was never a pathogen found, no listeria, no E. coli, no salmonella, nothing bad in the milk. It's H-Pi, this bird flu thing.
Mm-hmm.
And we got, 500-600 dairies in California. They're getting it. The cows are getting it. And then they're getting immune to it, and it goes on. Just like COVID. You either got it or you went on, right? The same thing is happening with us. We're about halfway through it now. Probably another 4 or 5 weeks we'll be out of it. We got creative, and we have another dairy we took over way far away from us, outside of the area where bird flu is. We've converted that dairy over to our dairy. We spent 3 weeks up there busting our butts. A lot of hard work from our team up there. And it's got approval now from the state of California. So in a few days, hopefully we'll have milk flowing to our creamery to make all our bottled product from this third dairy we have outside of the area. But that's kind of breaking news. We'll see how that goes this weekend, which is exciting. Yeah. But H-Pi is an interesting subject because there's never been an illness from consumption of raw milk with virus in it, virus of any kind, including H-Pi. And the reason is, check this out. This is interesting. During COVID, now, if you had a mom that had a breastfeeding baby that was 4, 5, 6 months old, and she had COVID, what did they tell her to do? Keep on breastfeeding. Don't stop. That was the advice from the CDC, because raw milk has antiviral properties that kill virus and has lots of antibodies which protect the baby. Mothers always protect their babies. They don't give the disease they have. They give protection of the disease they have. Same thing with cows. So they're really talking out two sides of their face, because the science says you're not going to get sick from H-Pi and raw milk. It can't happen, because that's how Mother Nature works. But yet, that's what they're saying to people. Maybe it will happen. Maybe. Show me one person. Nobody. Mm-hmm. Now, there are some farm workers that are out there drenching cows on big dairies, and they're having to wrestle the cow down because they got to put a tube down their throat, and they got mucus in their nose, they got it in their eyes, and they got some pink eye. It went away in 4 days. And by the way, when they test that dairy worker, they have immunity to H-Pi. They're good. So that's how nature works.
Yeah.
And the bottom line is, we'll be back. And when we're back, we'll be far stronger than we've ever been before, because we've been able to stand up like David and Goliath. Mm-hmm. And that's where your story of being the fighter. You know why and how I fight? Because I had 15,000 paramedic calls and watched kids die of asthma. And I have a higher purpose and a higher calling that brings me to the fight. And I don't give up. I don't give up, because we've got something worthy to fight for. We got all those kids out there. They're going to do really, really well. And the parents, they're excited in all ages, appreciating good quality raw milk. So that's where the fight is. But it's a worthy fight. It's an exciting fight because we've done nothing wrong. And it's just Mother Nature doing its course. And we're going to be back stronger than we've ever been. And it's really exciting to be there. And then the great gift is that maybe if RFK gets confirmed, I could be back doing something for everybody in America to make better policies and better standards so everybody can have this kind of food. So that's a really good fight to have. I'll tell you that right now.
Yep. I agree. And then from what I looked into, that's awesome, dude. I like to hear fighters talk, and that was dope. From what I looked into, as far as like and important
Did you
things
guys hear
that
the Rocky music while Mark was going on?
I heard something.
It was just me.
I think important things is that because like I said, you see the news clips and then they try to blame it on raw milk and all that. But it's funny because at the end of their little report where they say, I believe it was 28 out of the 29 are related to someone in contact with the cow, and then one was a kid, nothing related to cows. And then at the end, they just say none are connected to raw milk. But they use like the video, in their little montage. They're just showing your product, like if it had something to do with you. But that's the crazy part. And another thing that's important for people to know is you guys did that recall voluntarily, because
Correct.
if I'm not mistaken, you guys tested that batch afterwards, and so did the people that said they found the positive, and you guys both got negative. I think that's what that's how I understood it.
There was a back and forth between like November 27th and 29th where we were negative and they were positive. They were negative and then we were positive. The bottom line is the state of California is aligned with the USDA and the FDA. I'm not blaming them. The pressure on them is unbelievably high. And their one test that they have is called PCR. What PCR does is it tests for dead, non-viable virus. It can't tell whether it's live or dead. And so if you've got milk that's got dead virus in it, it'll show it. If you've got milk that's got live virus in it, it'll show it as dead. So you can't tell the difference between the two. Now, there was a big study that came out just this last week from Stanford University. And we had our experts evaluate it, and it showed that virus found in raw milk from cows was 99% eliminated to non-virus or dead within about 24 hours. So it takes us 3 or 4 days to get the milk to the store. It doesn't happen overnight. You've got to get the milk from the creamery, the dairy to the creamery. You got to put it in the bottle. You got to put it in the truck. You got to store about 3 days. So by the time the milk was to the store, there was no viable virus that was going to make anybody sick. And when they took that milk that they said they found virus in, that was PCR. That was not the egg milk broth that actually says where it's alive or not. They sent that back to Iowa, and they're supposed to give us answers in a week. It's been 3 weeks and no answers. It's supposed to take 48 hours to do the test. We know what the answer is. It's non-viable. It's dead.
Yeah, they don't want to give you the answer.
They're suppressing the hell out of it. Now listen to this one. The CDC took some samples of the same milk from Marin County over to the CDC, and the results were released 3 days ago saying no virus of any kind was found. So raw milk bioactives work really, really well. And all of them, by the way, are destroyed in pasteurization. These are the bioactives found in mother's breast milk, all these wonderful things, lactoferrin and antibodies and all these things in there that suppress viruses and keep kids healthy, keep viruses from, because if viruses made kids sick, we'd be dead. Bad news. So the bottom line is they don't want to tell the truth because the truth doesn't help them. So at this point, we're standing on the moral high ground, and we are absolutely elated with the support we have of our customers who know better than the lies they're being told right now. And I say that very seriously. They're being lied to because what you said, the headlines say something terrible, but when you read into what it is, there's nothing there. Biggest world nothing burger ever existed, but yet the headlines were out there beating you up. So it's a pretty interesting time for justice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it takes time, but at the end of the day, with time comes the truth, and that's pretty much what we're excited about. But you said something interesting is that they're using the PCR test on the cows that they used for COVID, and that's why we had so many positive, cases for COVID.
Yeah,
So
let's use this one.
yeah, now they're using it on the cows. So
Well, think
it's
about that for a second. Think about that, Danny. Think about Moderna. They made a fortune on vaccines during COVID.
Mhm.
3 years later, they're taking a nosedive because there's no crisis to fix. So why not go invent a new crisis? Let's make a new vaccine. And by the way, they got $176 million from the FDA this August, to make a new vaccine for HPI, bird flu, that doesn't exist. There's nobody getting sick from bird flu. They got $176 from you and I, $176 million to go create a new vaccine of some kind to have ready for bird flu that does not exist. Nobody's getting sick from bird flu. No. But yet they want to have. So you can see that the pharmaceuticals run the show. They run the show and they waste our money.
Yeah, I mean, and it's the same playbook if you think about it. When are they predicting that the bird flu is going to hit? Isn't it like January 21st or something like that? What, right after the inauguration? Or
Well, the bird flu's been around. The bird flu's been around for 25 years. It's been known around the world. It's just that cows are getting it right now.
Mhm.
Birds get it back and forth. But you know what's interesting about flu? This is what's really interesting about flu, Danny. Every year there's a new flu bug. Flu always changes every year. That's why the flu
It
vaccine,
mutates, yeah.
it mutates. Think about it for a second. When they come up with a new flu vaccine every year, it only works about 25% because they screwed it up. They didn't get it right because they couldn't predict the future. And they can't, right? You don't know what the flu's going to be next year. But the kids, this is really important. The kids that drank raw milk for 10 years straight in Europe weren't getting raw milk from the first year. They're getting raw milk from the cow every year, the entire 10 years. They never got flu. They didn't get fevers and colds because the raw milk adapted to the new virus every year. Raw milk is adapted to the new threat. So the kids, they didn't get vaccinated for the flu. They drank their raw milk. The cow is an antibody factory for the current infectious problem. And that's been shown through all history that cow is a fantastic way to stay well through the year because she's going to nurse you through the year, literally, by her raw milk, by being the antibody factory to protect you from whatever the threats are this year. So Mother Nature's got it going on. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah. It's when
You know,
we try to go
I'd hate to
artificial
interject
when
here.
it goes all wrong.
I'd hate to interject here, but we said that the flu's always been around. 2020 it disappeared, so we
That
still
is
gotta
correct.
figure out where it
That's a
went in.
fact.
Good point. Good point. Yeah.
That is a good point. Yeah. No, it's man, you're right. Like it provides all the benefits, and that's how I found out about raw milk and your brand and all that. I would first hear our friend Anthony Cabasa. He would post about raw milk, right? And I'd be like, oh, what is he talking about? I just raw milk. Was he cooking it? You know what I mean? But I that's when I first heard, and then I started seeing videos from Paul Saladino, and he was kind of explaining all that stuff with your gut and all the benefits it has for kids. And that's when I really started paying attention to it, and pretty much switched over. And yeah, I think people might think it tastes different or anything, or it's good, you know. And I'm someone that, growing up, I didn't like milk. I'll be honest. Maybe because of that, right? I didn't like milk. I feel like if I drank too much milk, my stomach would turn. I just didn't like it.
But that was pasteurized. That was pasteurized.
Exactly, and I didn't know the difference. And
Sure.
the first raw milk gallon I got too, I was like, oh man, what is this gonna do? But from my personal experience, I've never drank the raw milk and ended up feeling like, okay, it's gonna mess me up. And I think Danny said something on the last episode that it is part of the pasteurized process where people get lactose intolerant, or that's what people are what's affecting them basically.
I got a little story about what we call it pasteurization intolerance.
Mm.
I have a friend. His name is Kameli. Kameli is about as black as you can get. He came from the Maasai in Kenya, Africa. Okay, he came to the United States, and he grew up as a child in the Maasai in Kenya, where he drank raw milk straight out of the teat of the cow. As a 3-year-old, he would have starved if he didn't have a cow. He's sucking the teat directly. He didn't have a mom to nurse him. He nursed from a cow. He made money, or made a little bit of money by taking care of cows out in the pasture when he was 5, 6, 7 years old. Well, he came to America and went to school at Stanford University. He graduated with Chelsea Clinton, Clinton's daughter. Mm-hmm. And he now works for the UN as a peace ambassador. But interesting, his story, I met him. He had horrible, horrible Crohn's disease and irritable bowel syndrome. And they were going to take him down, and they were going to cut 10 feet of his gut out and have him poop in a plastic bag. And that was after being in America for about 8 years and drinking soy milk because he couldn't drink pasteurized milk because it made him sick.
Mm.
Now, this is a guy that grew up on raw milk and thrived on it. Well, I got to know him, and here he is. He's getting ready to go to surgery in a month or two because he's got this bad problem with the gut, Crohn's disease. And I said, Kameli, why don't you try raw milk? He goes, you got raw milk? And he looked at me like, are you crazy? Raw milk doesn't exist in America. What are you, nuts? You nuts or something? And I said, no. I said, I'll give you 8 gallons of milk a week for free. And let's see what happens to your Crohn's disease. Mm. So within 6 months, his gut was perfect. Had no problem at all drinking 8 gallons of raw milk a week. He told me, he said, Mark, thank you so much, brother. I live in California, but I eat in Kenya. And that was a very interesting thing for him to say. The same story, most black people have a hell of a time with lactose intolerance, with pasteurized milk. Mm-hmm. But the genetics are fine when you drink raw milk. So it's not a problem with black people at all. It's a problem with the processing of it. Now, let me change the races here a little bit. Let's go to the Chinese and Asians. Let's go to Mongolia. Outer Mongolia, right in China, way up in the northwest there by Russia. They got horse milk all over the place. It's called mare's milk, horse milk. And they drink the heck out of it. They have this beautiful kefir, raw milk from the horses, and they're warriors, strong warriors. They live up in the high mountains. Very strong, healthy people, live long lives, do great. But if you go downtown Beijing, China, same genetics, and they have ultra-pasteurized milk, very, very high incidence of maldigestion and lactose intolerance. But it's not the genes. Mm-hmm. It's the milk. So raw milk is universally digestible by everybody because it has everything in it to digest itself. When you pasteurize, you get rid of all the enzymes, all the bacteria that make enzymes like lactase. And now you got a problem with, if you've got a gut that's screwed up because you've had antibiotics and you don't have good bacteria and your enzymes are messed up, you can have lactose intolerance real easy with pasteurized milk. And so you see as people coming, oh my God, I don't have digestive upset with raw milk. And I did with pasteurized milk. It's the milk, not you. So it's interesting that raw milk is universal humanity, food for humanity, regardless of where you live in the world. Mm-hmm. Pretty powerful stuff, huh? Pretty interesting stuff.
It makes me think of, when people go ahead and say, oh, I got a gluten problem or a gluten allergy. And, it turns out that it's not the bread, or it is the bread. It's the actual glyphosate that they're using, right?
Right.
So it's a little bit of that, I'd imagine, with the pasteurized and homogenized milk,
the story gets a little deeper, guys. Going to the medicine a little bit, look at the gut. A normal gut has a mucus lining inside. It's actually made by a bacteria called Akkermansia. And the Akkermansia actually tend this wonderful mucous membrane which protects the tissues inside of the gut. And inside of that tissue, in the mucosal lining, that's where the good bacteria stay and colonize the new food that comes through. And that's how that's their little habitat. That's their cave to hang out in. Well, if you start taking antibiotics and preservatives in your food and glyphosate, Roundup, and all these things that shouldn't be in your gut, that Akkermansia bacteria is destroyed and the mucosal lining is gone. And now your tissues of your gut are fully exposed to the world. And you start getting leaky gut syndrome, and food goes into the bloodstream through the gut wall instead of being protected by this mucus. So we got a structural problem on top of a food problem. But if we start eating the right food, the right bacteria come back, do the right work. Now you got America healing, and we're making America healthy again. We're doing Maha work there. So it's going to take a little while to get back. It's going to take a lot of education. You guys are early students. Trust me, there's a lot of people that aren't going to get to go to school for a while in this, but you guys get early training.
Nice.
The science is incredibly, profoundly supportive of what we're talking about. But the money has to change from pharmaceuticals to farmers. And when you pay the farmers right, guess what? The guys milking the cows, busting their butts, they get paid better. So it's literally returning the work, the money, the value back to the earth, back to the farm, back to the cows, back to the farm workers where it belongs.
Well, it's one of those things that we pride ourselves in, and why we kind of came together to make this, podcast, whatever you want to call it. It's for not those low-informed information voters, but people. I mean, who would have thought? How many other groups of Latinos are talking about the benefits of raw milk versus homogenized milk, right? I don't imagine many, but if again we can be that microphone to reach out to those people that have never even heard of this type of discussion. Here we have the CEO. Who better to hear it from, right? So again, we really appreciate you. And giving us the bit of information for our followers and our listeners to, grab onto that, and they spread the good word, so it's very enlightening to hear all this, information just hitting you.
When I was spending time in the clinic down in Mexico in a little place called El Fuerte, which is not too far from Wasabi down there, you're at the clinic, and outside you go to the houses and stuff. You see that goat in the backyard. They're milking by hand and bring the milk in, and they're drinking it straight. And then you see the Doritos and all the highly processed food. So I saw kind of an interesting picture of the worst and the best all in the same place. But it was interesting to know, okay, what are they doing to their gut? And because the raw milk was really helping, but the highly processed garbage food from Coca-Cola and stuff wasn't helping. So it's kind of a two-sided story there. But, here in America, we got the same thing going on too, but we don't have the enlightenment to understand Mother Nature's blueprints. And raw milk has been so heavily suppressed for so long. And now we're such in a really tough place because when you got 130,000 ileostomies a year where Crohn's, they're cutting your gut and you're pooping a plastic bag, and that's considered normal.
Wow.
And you got food allergies and all these crazy. Let's get back to the basics. Whole food nutrition for everybody. Let's feed our kids going to school so they can learn, so they don't get sick. I'm not against getting rid of all vaccinations, but I say, you know what? In the United States, we've got 82 vaccinations in 18 years. In Europe, they're doing about 12 to 15. What the hell? Yeah. Something's really wrong. So, maybe we should back off to 10 or 12 that really need it and leave the rest alone and let the rest be good nutrition so we have the ability to have a fighting chance if we do get sick. So it's farmers over pharmacies, and it's food is medicine time. I got a great quote from you. 2,400 years ago, Hippocrates, he's a Greek scientist and Greek doctor. He said, let food be your medicine and medicine be your food. He also said, all disease begins in the gut and do no harm, which is the Hippocratic Oath. So we should do that more for one another in our country. I'm a humanitarian, and I really believe this is something we need to do for everybody if we want to have a stronger nation. And by the way, a lot of people look to America as an example. So shouldn't we be showing the way forward to be healthy? I know France is doing a pretty good job. France is doing a great job with the farmers market.
Milk? What is that about? We're letting France take the lead in this? Come on. We got to get it together. Starting in California, over here in the valley. We can't. Come on. The Franks?
No, but isn't it ironic that in other countries, the products that we consume here in America are banned? They're not allowed.
That's
and
right.
it is that we should be the example. But I guess we are an example of what not to do.
Right. Right.
But this, that's the difficult part right here is that, the machine that you are fighting in order to get, the education out, the real science, if you will, to everyday people.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's so consumed with everything else, but I tend to ask everybody that we talk to this question, and the question for you specifically is, have you seen a difference in people being more open to what you have to offer, as far as raw milk and the explanation that you gave, the nutritional values that it has? Because it was kind of, some of the comments, it's kind of taboo thinking about raw milk.
Yep.
Some people thought that it was illegal, and all kinds of different myths like that. Have you noticed a difference lately?
I started 26 years ago doing this in 1998, 1999. And when we were producing our milk, it was hardcore Weston A. Price, Mama Nuttenberries kind of people. It was also new immigrants from other countries that had raw milk like back home, like from Germany, Russia, Ukraine, South America. They wanted their goat milk like they had back home.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't the Americans per se that were into the mainstream food because they didn't know about raw milk. They had a culture against it. But the people that came from other countries that had it back home, or it wasn't enculturated to hate raw milk. They wanted it. They wanted 10 gallons of it right now. So I do see a trend where raw milk has been shared between people, where one mom will tell another mom, hey, my kids are doing great, and your kids are getting sick in daycare, and my kids aren't. What are you doing? I'm drinking raw milk, or I'm drinking raw cheese and all this kind of stuff. And the mom goes, let me try some. And she tries some, and she goes, oh my God, it's delicious. And she gets on board. So it's kind of the internet telling the story between real people and influencers. It's not the government. In fact, the government's really upset right now because they're saying, don't drink raw milk, don't drink raw milk, don't drink raw milk. And the influencers are saying, I don't trust you because I don't trust everything you said for the last 50 years. You're the reason. The government's the reason why we're in this valley of the shadow of death right now with our immune systems, right? Yeah. So why would I trust or believe anything you have to say? You cried wolf too many times and I'm not believing anything. They're giving them the third finger, what they're doing. And I heard that. That's not mine. That's what they said. Whatever the FDA says, influencers say, do the opposite. You're probably better off. So that's where we're coming here is influencers with talking about their own life experiences, like Daniel talking and everybody talking about their own life experiences. Your friends are going to trust you more than they trust the government. And that's what we're seeing the trend now is influencers telling their stories in their lives and their transformations themselves, their own personal truth, and ignoring the government that should be telling us the truth, but unfortunately are misleading us or even flat out lying to us.
Mm-hmm. Well, again, it makes me think of, just government overreach. Why they always have to tell us what is safe for us and what isn't. They want us collecting rainwater or they don't. Or my wife has to sign papers to get her placenta and things like that. Why does the government get a say, the final say? And it just, it's man.
I was thinking too, could you imagine the founders being like, what? Raw milk is a problem? What the hell? You know what I mean? Why are they so involved in that? Like, I don't know. I should have the freedom if I want to drink raw milk, goat milk, whatever. What do they always say? What do they always say? My body, my choice.
Well, you got to remember that the FDA doesn't have any standards for raw milk for human consumption. None, zero, zip. They got one standard. It's all filthy and it's got to be pasteurized. So if I get back there, we're going to have some standards transplanted from California that are been extremely well practiced, that we've actually trained at Raw Milk Institute, which is an organization I founded 12 years ago. We've trained 1,000 farmers internationally on how to do this. We were invited to Great Britain, to England, to train 165 of their dairymen on how to do raw milk right. We did that in 2018. So we've got a lot of experience training farmers. We know what the standards are. We know what the technology is to do the testing on farm. We know how to establish the raw milk ordinance. So my whole point in saying this is there is a bright future, but it's driven by the consumers and influencers and the people. Yeah. Not the government telling us anything. The easiest way to tell the government to go pack sand just do what you believe is true yourself and dollar vote for the farmer you trust. And you know what? The government's going to get changed or go away because pretty soon you got people like RFK saying, I'm sorry, we're not going to buy that anymore. Did you know that RFK is one of my customers in LA?
I heard that. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so he reports some incredible things that happened to him that helped him in his healing process as well. So, yeah, this is a big subject, and I'm really proud to be helping lead this thing. And you guys are part of it too because you're sharing the word. Good job.
Well, you guys heard it here first, right? Support your local farmer, not your local pharmacist. Oh,
Bars. Yeah,
Got
that's
it, buddy.
true. Yeah. No, Gio asked, he said, where do you find raw milk? I know you guys were selling it at Sprouts. Is there another big store that you guys were providing it at?
We have a finder to find the store closest to you at rawfarmusa.com.
Cool.
And there's about 450 stores, I think, in California, plus or minus. Plus, there's 1,000 stores nationally that sell our pet food products as well. So in California, you go to our website, look up the finder, and you would click on your zip code, and it would tell you the closest stores. Yes, Sprouts is our largest distributor. They're their biggest store. But we also have Mother's Markets, Rainbow Grocery. We have Nugget Markets. We've got Air One in LA. We got Italy. We've got just a bunch of stores. Lassen's Markets in San Diego, all over. So all the co-ops. So there's about 130 Sprout stores, but there's 300 or so other stores in California. So hopefully here next weekend, a week and a half or so, you're going to see a bunch of raw milk coming out, and you're going to see a bunch of people dancing in the streets.
I have a question for you. Is the farm store, is that open, or did you guys are you guys doing construction already?
No, our farm store is open. It's a facility we have temporary there for our construction, but we haven't started construction yet. This whole shutdown, it's kind of delayed it a couple months here because we're having to spend a little bit of money just to stay alive. But the bottom line is we're going to thrive and do really well. But we don't have any milk there, but we have some cheese, we have kefir, and we have some butter, which were not recalled, not affected by the recall. So we do have some of the products there, but our milk and cream is not available.
Okay, no, that's cool. I like going to the farm store. So yeah, I'll probably head out there tomorrow and get some butter or something.
And it's a cheaper price point. It's a lot cheaper over here.
It is. So Gio, drive to the farm, bro.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, I think, I can say from my personal experience, like your guys' products, was it kefir?
Yes.
That stuff, I had never had that before. I was nervous when I tried that too, but it's just like a yogurt. That's the best way I can describe it. It's pretty good.
Well, if you have a blender, pour a cup and a half in there and then put in strawberries or a banana, a raw egg, whatever you want, and blend it all together. Oh, and put maybe if you want some maple syrup or a little honey in there. You don't even have to do that, just that by itself. And it is a fantastic smoothie. Mm-hmm. And you talk about good gut bacteria and good gut microbiome changes. It's huge for you. A lot of people that are doing athletic work, athletic weightlifting and stuff, they'll start off the day with a raw milk kefir smoother, a couple of raw eggs, a bunch of strawberries or blueberries, raspberries or something, plus a banana, a bunch of kefir, and maybe some, whatever else they want in there. Put in your protein powder. You blend it all together, and you knock out hunger until about 2:00 in the afternoon. And you feel really, really good. And your immune system's really boosted.
Yeah. I like the lemon one with some blueberries.
That's my favorite. Yeah, that's good stuff.
That's good.
I can't wait to try it, man.
Yeah. Before we wrap up, I got one more question because I live out here.
How often do you have the CEO?
All right. Hey, we're here now. You guys did
Daniel,
usually do.
I got to tell you something. I was asked one day, a long time ago, how will you know when you're too big? I said, when I can't talk to people that want to talk to me, I'm too big.
Yeah.
So I will always make space to talk to people because I believe that's anybody wants to talk to me, you got my time. I want to talk to you too. Anyway, go ahead, David.
That's our policy here too. You guys anybody want to talk to us? You're more than welcome. But But I was gonna ask, the camping with the cows. Uh,
Yeah.
I went this past year. I know you guys are going through some stuff, but is it still in the books for next year? Because I want to try to convince these two to
Well,
go.
camping with the cows is a unbelievable event. You remember that was 1,500 people here for 2 days. Had great music, great food, great people, campfires out under the stars. It was just wonderful. I don't think we're going to have it this next year. We only have it every 2 years,
Okay.
so it'll be year after this year. But who knows? Maybe we'll have one this next year. I don't know. It's every 2 years though we have it because it's such a big deal. It takes a lot to do.
Hmm.
But yeah, thank you for coming because I tell you that was a fantastic event, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. It was my daughters. My daughters loved it. They still remember you were driving the that little train, that little
Yeah.
cow train thing. So they remember you. Yeah.
The kids won't get off that thing. They want to get on that little train pulled by the lawnmower, and they'd ride that thing for 3 hours if you gave them a chance.
Yeah. Yeah, they would.
Yeah.
Well, guys, do you guys have any other questions or anything?
No, just thank you for joining us and giving us some education. Again, it sounds like a broken record, but I'm really excited for the next 4 years. I know it's going to be a battle. I tell Daniel and Christian that the knowledge is already out there. It's just suppressed, but
Mm-hmm.
the real stuff is out there. The problem is, the fight that they're going to have to in order to get the real science out. So I just pray that um, this administration has the strength to fight through that and get the real information out to the people.
Well, I have a closing blessing for all of us here, and that is our raw milk is for everybody, left, right, middle.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care who you are. It's humanity, and that's what we need to bring together in this country is our humanity
Yep.
Agreed.
And a good gut.
and a good gut. All right.
Yep. Yep. Well, like Danny said, thank you for coming on, man. I'm probably gonna listen to this one a couple times because you dropped a lot of things in there that I gotta I want to remember and I want to really look up to, and just like you said, it's the education of things that we weren't taught. We aren't. No one talks about all this to us, and
No.
that's why I was so interested and excited in having a conversation because I was like, I'm probably gonna hear some things that
Yeah.
I don't know about.
Exuberance, the word.
Yeah.
David, invite me back February if RFK gets selected and he says, Mark, help out. I want to come back and talk about that because
Yes.
opportunities are unbelievable. How we can fast track to a much better future for America.
Yeah, for sure. I got your number. I'll text you February 1st.
Okay.
All right, man. Well, again, thank you. We appreciate your time, everybody. Look out. The product should be back soon. It's the best milk I've ever had. So, don't question me. Just drink it.
Thanks, David. Thank
All
you.
right,
I
everybody.
plan to.
Peace be with you.
Peace be with you.